which you shall go, for you have not passed this way before. And Joshua said to the people, set yourselves apart as holy. For tomorrow Yahweh will do wondrous deeds among you. And Joshua spoke to the priests, saying, carry the ark of the covenant and cross over ahead of the people. So they carried the ark of the covenant and went ahead of the people. Then Yahweh said to Joshua, this day I will begin to magnify you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that just as I have been with Moses, I will be with you. Moreover, you shall command the priests who are carrying the ark of the covenant, saying, when you come to the edge of the waters of the Jordan, you shall stand still in the Jordan. And then Joshua said to the sons of Israel, come near and hear the words of Yahweh your God. And Joshua said, by this you shall know that the living God is among you, and that he will surely dispossess from before you the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Hivite, and the Perizzite, and the Girgashite, and the Amorite, and the Jebusite. Behold, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth is crossing over ahead of you into the Jordan. God did not command them to build a raft and float it over. He commanded the priest to carry it into the water and then stand still. Look at this. So now take for yourselves 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one man for each tribe. It will be that when the soles of the feet of the priests who carry the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth, the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, the Lord of all the earth, rest in the waters of the waters of the Jordan will be cut off, and the waters which are flowing down from above will stand in one heap. This is a nation, a people that experienced passing through the water when they left the land of their slavery. They experienced a baptism of sorts. God parted the Red Sea, and they passed through on dry ground. That generation all died off in the wilderness. They all died. Their unbelief cost them. They did not enter the promised land. They all died. God took care of them. They all died of old age. Now their children come, and they have their own baptism, symbolically speaking. They pass through the water, coming into the promised land. It's the waters of the Jordan. And God causes the waters of the Jordan to stand up in a heap. He doesn't part them like he did the Red Sea. He only has to work on one end. It's a river after all. Just stop the flow, and the waters will all travel down the riverbed. That's exactly what happened. So it happened that when the people set out from their tents to cross the Jordan, with the priests carrying the ark of the covenant before the people, and when those who carried the ark came into the Jordan, and the feet of the priest carrying the ark were dipped in the edge of the water, for the Jordan overflows all its banks all the days of harvest. The waters which were flowing down from above stood and rose up in one heap, a great distance away at Adam. There's a place called Adam. The city that is beside Zarethan. Those which were flowing down toward the Sea of Arabah, the Salt Sea, were completely cut off, so the people crossed opposite Jericho. The priest who carried the Ark of the Covenant of Yahweh stood firm on dry ground in the middle of the Jordan, while all Israel crossed on dry ground until all the nations completely crossed the Jordan. So this is important, that we have those sort of lines that we cross. We have our own, and that is baptism. It is the waters of baptism, that very ceremony, that very sacrament, whereby we identify our life as being dead, buried, and raised with Christ. And water is involved. Look at this. Now it happened that when all the nation had completed crossing the Jordan, that Yahweh spoke to Joshua, saying, take for yourselves 12 men from the people, one man from each tribe. And command them, saying, carry for yourselves 12 stones from here out of the middle of the Jordan, from the place where the priest's feet are standing firm. Carry them over with you and lay them down in the lodging place where you will lodge tonight. So Joshua called the 12 men whom he had appointed from the sons of Israel, one man from each tribe. And Joshua said to them, cross again before the ark of Yahweh your God into the middle of the Jordan. Each of you carry a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Israel, in order that this would be a sign among you, so that when your children ask, because they are supposed to ask, God made children to ask, when your children ask later, saying, what do these stones mean to you? And you shall say to them, because the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of Yahweh when it crossed the Jordan. The waters of the Jordan were cut off, so these stones shall become a memorial to the sons of Israel forever. And thus the sons of Israel did, as Joshua commanded, and carried 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan. Just as Yahweh spoke to Joshua, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Israel, they carried them over with them to the lodging place and laid them down there. But Joshua set up 12 stones in the middle of the Jordan, at the place where the feet of the priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant were standing, and they are there to this day. Now, the priests who carried the Ark were standing in the middle of the Jordan until everything was completed. And Yahweh had commanded Joshua to speak to the people according to all that Moses had commanded Joshua. The people hurried and crossed. And it came, and it happened when all the people had completed crossing of the Ark of Yahweh, and the priests crossed before the people. The sons of Reuben and the sons of Gad, the half-tribe of Manasseh, crossed over in battle array before the sons of Israel, just as Moses had spoken to them. About 40,000 equipped for war crossed for battle before Yahweh to the desert plains of Jericho. I would point out to you that God is into landmarks. We should take note of them. We should make them, have them ourselves. Baptism, for a few of you tonight, will mark your timeline. It's a mark on your timeline where you have determined the man I used to be, or the woman I used to be, is dead. Christ died for me. I will count that person that I have been dead with him. I will bury that person in a water grave. And I will rise, identifying myself as risen with Christ. And I will live the resurrected life. That is what baptism is to serve us as, sort of landmark. It doesn't save us. What happens in the heart saves. It's the kind of thing we do because we are saved. And we like to remember where and when. It's the same reason why we don't just live together making promises. We actually experience a marriage ceremony. We go to the trouble of gathering everybody together and entering a covenant, a ceremony that is a sacrament. It is a sacrament given to us by the Lord himself. He created marriage. It's one of his things, right? It's in the same way, if you're a Christian, you follow the Lord in baptism. You receive that sacrament. But there's other landmarks. So consider again that God told Joshua, pick 12 men. Now, this particularly, God doesn't say this. He doesn't say, never mind if they're smart or not. But you know it really didn't matter. What you're looking for, Joshua, are 12 men that each one that can represent his tribe by picking up a stone that'll become a landmark, right? So what kind of guy are you looking for? Looking for a strong dude, a strong non-quitter, somebody with endurance and strength. You're looking for that combination, and each tribe, no doubt, had their guy. picture 12 very large men, 12 very strong Jews, walking down into the riverbed of the Jordan, and each one selecting a stone, and you know they're men, and you know they're going to represent their tribe. So they're not going down there to find a little pebble. They're not looking like David for, 5 smooth stones he can put in his pouch. They're looking for stones. They gotta represent their tribe. They've got to get that big stone up on their shoulder. Whole nation's watching. And the priests are still standing, holding the Ark of the Covenant, in a very real sense, holding the waters from being let go. They got to get that stone up on their shoulder. And then they got to walk with it and not drop it. If you do drop it, you got to pick it back up again. Imagine the nation cheering for them. You can imagine they get their stone. These 12 men will have they'll have a bond because they were the ones who made that landmark. And it's Joshua who makes the sort of pillar. The old English word, Ebenezer, I know you think about it with Christmas, right? Because of Scrooge. Charles Dickens' character was Ebenezer Scrooge. But what is an Ebenezer? Again, we use the word when we sing. Well, I think Josh Bickford will usually lead us in that one verse. It's William Cowper's "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing." As the second verse, "Here I raise my Ebenezer. Hither by thy help I come. And I know, and I trust that by thy good pleasure, safely to arrive at home. But here I raise my Ebenezer." What's an Ebenezer? It's a landmark. I suppose in some way, a tombstone's an Ebenezer. It marks something. It marks a life. But a landmark, a place where you had never been before and you crossed. We're a landmark where God did something miraculous, where God did the miracle of stopping the flow of the water so that they could cross. He stopped the flow of the Jordan. It's supernatural. You want to remember something like that. You want to make a landmark. You want to make a pile of stones so that children will go, what do these stones mean to you? What do they mean to us? What is this pillar of stone here? And you'll have the opportunity to say, these stones, they came from the riverbed. And the water had been stopped. God stopped the water so we could cross on dry land. God opened the door for us to come to this promised land. He did this. I hope that you have such things. Surely your children have seen your wedding pictures if you're married. It's kind of relevant to their life beginning. Hopefully there's other things, and I hope it's something deeper than just a tattoo or two. But even those are important, that you're not just picking them because they look cool, but that you marked yourself for something that meant something. So that when your children go, what is that? You go, I'm glad you asked. And there is an answer to that. Our job is to answer questions. Parents and grandparents, we should be in the business of answering questions. And if it's necessary, tell the story that is connected. We should get good at telling the story of God's goodness. Now, I mean, if you're really good at it, you don't lose your audience. If you're really good at it, there's an old rabbinical saying that the speaker or the teacher should leave before the audience leaves. There's some people that go on and on to the point where people are like, okay, all right, enough. Or they're just looking for an out. Or they've actually gone, but not gone. You know that because you've done it, I'm sure. Gone. You might have left the room, left the building, maybe left the planet, and then, the guy's still talking, and maybe that guy's been me, Lord, have mercy. Probably has, a time or two. But you got to get good at telling the story and telling them what God did. Tell them what the Lord has done. Don't brag about how bad you used to be. Only brag about how good he was to forgive. No boasting in anything except him and his goodness. Let's take a few minutes. Any of you have, and I said all of that about landmarks so that you might make one. Make one. It's right that we do make commitments, that we purpose in our heart. And we cross the lines as the Lord is leading us. We cross lines, mark that. Mark it. Maybe there's a place in your Bible. Maybe you got a journal. Do something to mark it, to remember. Because we do have a tendency to forget. Any of you here tonight want to just briefly testify to any landmarks that you have passed? You passed some this year. You passed some, and it was the goodness of God, and you know it. John Lee, you can go first. Yes, you do. Be brief. What you did on Christmas Day was a blessing to me, that text. I'll testify for you. First time in 3 years, Christmas time. Amen.